Let's start. Just give me a second. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. A couple of us are still trickling in. That's amazing. But I think we can kick off. We have a very exciting session for all of you. And before I introduce the amazing guests we have, the amazing school that we're going to talk about, just want to introduce a little bit about what we do at the Circle. If it's possible, feel free to turn on your videos, and if it's not, that's totally fine. We love to see faces. At the Circle, we're reinventing schools, after schools, and teacher training institutions. We do that through a couple of different programs that we run. We have a 2 year incubation, which helps entrepreneurs all across India. Right now, we have 50 entrepreneurs who are starting their own schools or after schools. With the deep belief that children, no matter where they come from, they deserve a life that's filled with opportunity, grace, love, and justice. And we need to bring them those high quality opportunities. That's where our entrepreneurs come in, and they're building some exciting models all across India. We have something called Circle U, which is our latest flagship program that we have launched earlier this year. We're working with 100 teachers in low income schools all across India to really question and reimagine what teacher training could look like. Can you actually imagine that being a teacher is not just about knowledge transfer and content transfer? It's so much more. And that's what we're trying to do there. And the third thing that we do is something called the Circle Labs, which I deeply work with. The Circle Labs is a space to do a lot of short term programs across the year to reach many educators and innovators like you. We bring together a lot of programming and facilitators who really push you to think about what schools could actually look like. What kind of a future do you want to actually design and implement for children in your communities? And we enable that through a bunch of cohort based programs. We give out the innovation grants. We also run something called a rotational residence fellowship, which is a teaching fellowship that we've now been running for 3 years, where we place really high caliber teachers who've displayed a lot of excellence and drive in their teaching careers. We place them in really innovative schools for a period of 1 year. They go through 3 schools for 3 months each. So they're rotating those learning spaces, really flipping their lenses, their context to learn from most excellent, high quality, and schools that are really questioning what learning can look like. They are dipping their feet in, they're immersing, they're teaching, they're helping out the school in different projects. They are also building on their own hypothesis of what deeper teaching and excellent teaching means for them. We have 2 fellows with us, Akshi and Jackson, who are currently part of the third cohort of our rotational fellowship that started earlier in July this year. They are both at Riverside in their third month at Riverside, and they have designed this session, are going to be anchoring a lot of this session. Both of them are really passionate about student agency. A little bit about the school that's in question today. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's really not that popular, but it's called Riverside. Okay, that was a joke. But Riverside is something that I've just been hearing so much about ever since I started working at the Circle for over 2 years. And everyone who I've ever met through the programming has just been so enamored by everything that Riverside and its team does. We also read a book that was launched last year, I think, that Kiran has written, which was really, really all sorts of mind blowing. And the content that that book covered will also be talked about a little bit today, in what ways you'll get to know. Just a little bit about Riverside. Riverside is in Ahmedabad. It spent over 2 decades reimagining what schools can be. It was founded by Kiran Sethi in 2001, built on the belief that education should nurture not just academic achievement, but also agency, empathy, and a sense of responsibility in children. Their emphasis is a lot on not just content, but also content plus character. That is the intersection at which children really thrive and change the community and the world for the better. We're going to hear a little bit more about how Riverside actually enables this particular um, feeling and this particular quality of education in children by centering a conversation on student agency today. Akshi and Jackson, who are both teaching fellows at Riverside right now, have designed this session. Jackson began his education career through CRI as an intern. He then went on to join the Teach for India Fellowship, and he had also done the Transformational Fellowship as part of TFI. His last role was at the Akanksha Foundation, and he's currently at Riverside right now as the Circle's Rotational Fellow. Akshi is a lifelong lover of stories, deeply enamored by literature. She joined the Teach for India Fellowship in 2022, she was in Hyderabad. Her passion is largely what pushed her to also do the Transformational Fellowship in addition to Jackson, and she is also now at Riverside. Third, but it's the last but not the least, is someone who's joining us from the Riverside team, Muzzammil. Thank you so much for joining us, Muzzammil. A little bit about him. He has been with the Riverside Schools for 12 years now. He is currently serving as Key Stage 2 champion, he's also the innovation champion at this school. He has led over 15 client projects, and for the past 5 years has built the school's very vibrant maker space that we'll talk about. Outside the classroom, he's a passionate wildlife photographer, mountaineer, and storyteller. Wow, that's a lot. I love it. And we are excited to hear more about your work at Riverside. Muzzammil, that's it from my end. Folks, will hear from Akshi, Jackson, and Muzzammil for about 30-35 minutes today. Keep populating the chat with your questions, comments, things that you're finding exciting, things you want to know more about, and we will open the floor for questions. We'll keep doing that in the middle to take any pressing questions that are coming up, but definitely open the larger floor for questions at 6:45. And I'm just going to hand it over to Akshi and Jackson to just tell us how their time has been at Riverside and why student agency matters so much to them. And then over to Muzzammil.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction, Amina, and hi everyone. Thank you for attending this space. I am Akshi. As Amina has already shared, I have a background in English and have a love for the language. And I did the Teach for India Fellowship in 2022, and I was a TTF also after my fellowship in 2024-25. Now I'm at Riverside, and I think my purpose for joining the Rotation Fellowship was to be able to understand what excellent education looks like in how it works and how a school with a really strong vision operates. And I feel like a lot of that has been tick marked at Riverside, been able to see a lot of the structures of the school, been able to see a lot of how learning happens at the school. And one of the key factors has been student agency. And I've seen student agency not just in a big structure like which we'll talk about today, but also in everyday, in very small ways in the classroom, from students taking sessions, or from students, the way they culminate their learning, they synthesize their learning, to obviously the hands-on learning of the maker space and of client project as well. So yeah, really excited to have this conversation with you all.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackson. First of all, thank you all for being here in this space today. It means a lot to us. A little about me. I was a fellow in TFI, then I went on to be a transformational teaching fellow. Then I went on to join Akanksha, and I was a lead teacher there working with a set of teachers. And my why of joining the fellowship, the Circle Rotational Fellowship, was to look into what exactly does excellence in holistic growth look like. And when I say holistic growth, I'm not just limiting myself to academics. And for the most part, double tapping onto what Akshi said, I feel Riverside has added that depth, that extra depth of the curve into my learning and structures and mindsets, I would say, that I would want to take back to my context. Ranging not just in the different spaces that Riverside holds, but also a lot in the mindset from the leadership all the way till the teachers. So everyone resonates with why exactly student agency matters. Through different platforms, be it early morning, congloms, all the way till the end of the day when they're closing the loop, and everything that happens in between, which of course Muzzammil will be touching on. So that's a little about me.
So, Muzzammil, do you just quickly want to say hi before
Hi,
we?
hello everyone. This is Muzzammil from Riverside, and of course, I think the introduction is already given to all of you. Thank you for being here, and really excited to share about what we do at Riverside here. Basically, the idea of client projects and the project-based learning, because that's what I think I joined Riverside for, and I'll share my journey of this 12 years and how I have incorporated project-based in daily academics. So excited to share about it.
Thank you so much. All yours, Akshi and Jackson.
We'll
Yeah,
just
I'll
share
share the
our,
screen.
yeah, great, thanks. So yeah, before we start off, we just really wanted to get an understanding of what you guys think about student agency, right? So we have two questions on the screen. What is your understanding of student agency, and what are some ways in which you have built it or worked towards it in your context? Would love to hear from you guys. So you can come on the chat box and share, and would also love to hear a few of you come off mute and share. Would love to take at least two responses from you about what your understanding of student agency is. So yeah. Yeah, Farid, go for it.
Yeah, hi, good evening, all. For me, student agency would mean empowering the student to take up some challenge, which may be prevailing within the school or maybe outside the school, and then helping them to um, you know to solve that particular problem in a systematic way and to see the impact. That's what I mean by student agency. Thank
I
you.
think you covered a lot of what the client project structure and what Muzzammil is going to talk about very, very succinctly. I'm seeing about student groups and coalition. I'm seeing about giving students the option to choose what they learn. Would love to have one more response off mute. And especially addressing the second question as well, right? What are some ways in which we've worked on it in our settings as well? Yeah, Farid, go for it. Yes.
Yeah, one of the example at Gurukul, what we had done is like there was a garbage box in front of our school. It was there for more than 50 years, where people used to throw garbage, and it used to get spread across the road and creating a lot of issues for us. So 2 years back, on 2nd October, we decided we should do something about it, and the student took up that as a challenge, and with the help of the student and the local authorities, and also by convincing the neighbors, and also by starting a ghanta gadi, that is a garbage pickup van in our area. We took 45 days to clear everything, and then today, instead of that garbage box, we have a public library put up out there. Thank you.
Oh wow, that is incredible to have a garbage replace a public library. That's amazing. I'm also hearing a lot about engaging with climate activities. But before we even start, thank you so much for your responses. We just wanted to sort of break down what student agency means, right? So what it can look like and what it really entails for students, right? So we've sort of gone through a lot of existing literature on student agency, and the one we've picked up is from the OECD report. We'll share these resources with you at the end as well. So essentially what you guys shared, right? It's about enabling students to sort of take ownership of their own learning, to take charge of their learning, to be able to, from setting goals, to be able to make their own opportunities and create their own opportunities for learning, right? But and very, very simply put, from just being passive receivers of knowledge to actively creating knowledge. And I really want to highlight the acting rather than being acted upon, because it's a very powerful way to sum it up, right? Okay, Jackson, hand it over to you.
Perfect. So I'm having a tough time juggling both screen and speaking. Let me just go to the slide there. All right. So one is that definitely we have heard Fareed, and I'm sure most of you have played your bit in developing student agency in your own context. Now, the biggest question is, why does it matter? So the why behind what we does has to be very specific and has to be very clear to have a growing understanding of what we are doing and how then we go on to do that. So breaking down from the OECD reports and multiple, different frameworks and different things happening across the schools, something that maybe, we could come up with was in three parameters. One, A, it helps in boosting the motivation of the students. When our students are having the ownership and take the onus of their own learning, of course, with a little mentorship of their facilitators, they turn out to be highly motivated and they not just grow academically but also in their personal self. So as Riverside says that we not just focus on content but we also focus on building character through that content. um Moving on, B, as I just mentioned, that who are our students called to be. So when we give them, or more like when students have the agency to be the best of themselves, they also then move on to understand who am I called to be in my journey, which I am called to be. Let's say, who am I as an individual in the society? What is my part that I play in it? And one such example that comes to my mind when I talk about this is definitely a client project, which I was able to see in some classes in Riverside. And lastly, it will help the students in being problem solvers, right? Because when our students have the agency to work end to end on something that they choose to pick up, they also actively take the ownership of solving the problem as much as seeing the success to it. So what that does is it builds the skill of, overcoming challenges and looking at the problem solving aspect to it. Now, it definitely cannot operate in an isolation or in a vacuum. For any sort of agency, at least with our students, for that to happen, there is certain level of collaboration that is required, right? So at A, definitely it would be teachers, parents, and peers, right? All the key stakeholders coming together, working together, and fostering an environment where where such a vision or a skill is really valued and empowered. And then part B to that would be having shared goals. Like all of us, while we definitely are working together, but we are very purposefully working towards the shared goal to enjoy the common good or the greater success as mentioned over there. And last is, of course, that it then becomes a pool where all of us are collectively coming together, learning and sharing from what we have learned individually, and then coming to synthesize that again, how can we then in that case amplify what we have done to our community, or to wherever, to our context that we come from. So this is a little bit about the student agency and how it can be created. Now, in the next segment, we will be releasing some tips per se of how exactly you as an audience would be able to engage more meaningfully with what Muzzammil will be walking us all through. So we have a framework called FIDS. Akshi, maybe you would want to take that up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at Riverside, a lot of the structures that take place to the design thinking framework called FIDS. So it stands for essentially feel, imagine, do, share. So right from a client project to say a service component where they work on sustainable development goals or where they're actively working to solve problems, it all goes through the feel, imagine, do, share framework, right? So what we would encourage, we'll break it down for you, but what we do encourage is for you to, as you're listening to Muzzammil, do sort of notice what actions the students have taken or how the process has been in the feel stage, how it's in the imagine stage, in the do and the share stage, because that would help you sort of make more meaning of the entire process and how it's working, right? All right. So for the feel aspect, it's really feeling the problem essentially, right? You see something in your surrounding that's bothering you, like the garbage example in Farid's case, right? You really observe your surroundings to understand the issue in depth, and then you sort of dig deeper to understand the problem. Okay, who is the problem affecting? Who are the stakeholders being affected? Who is an expert who can come in and help me understand the problem deeper? What are some resources I can engage with to really feel the problem in its entirety? right? So this is the feel stage. Then the students move on to an imagine stage, which is essentially crafting a best case scenario. Okay, if I'm seeing this problem in my community, or if I'm seeing this problem in my surrounding, what is the best case in which the problem can be solved, and what is the statement that I can work towards, right? Essentially your vision or your goal for the project, right? And then it also, under imagine, you'll have a collective brainstorming for what could be the best solution. Here is where you sort of come up with all ideas, and no idea is a bad idea, but at the end you sort of narrow down to what could be the best way to work towards the vision statement or the imagine statement that you have visualized. Yeah.
Yeah. So now moving to the last two bit, that is do and share. Now, of course, once we have our solution or a blueprint that is created, do is the part where you actually are into the action part of it, right? Now, considering all the factors that we had initially, anticipated in the imagine part, we start working. When I say we, students, I mean, they start working on what exactly it is that they're wanting to cater to. Now, definitely that does not come out to be great, because when one is that we are planning and second is while we are doing. So when we are actually doing, we get to see that there are some things that we need to go back to. So sometimes it does happen that there is a to and fro between imagine and do, just to enhance the process. So do is all about the action bit of it, that, hey, this is my blueprint. Now I'm going to do it. I'm going to create it, right? It is basically about implementation. And the last bit is about share. Share is basically once we have created what, the expected outcome. Share is we are amplifying the success statement to inspire and inform the masses out there. So now, having this framework, I'll keep this on for like maybe 2 seconds. You folks can take a quick screenshot of this. Once you're done, if you all could give a thumbs up, and Akshi, if you could let me know so I could go to the next slide. Are we good to go? Perfect. So this is where I guess I will now stop sharing the screen, and we now hand it over completely to Muzzammil. Um, so Muzzammil, you can
Yes.
start sharing your screen now. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
go on.
Thank you so much, Jackson, Akshi. And there are some of the wonderful responses that came in the chat box as well, about what do you understand by the student agency. I would start off. I mean, I was just, when they were sharing at that time, I was figuring out how to start and what to speak first. But then suddenly there is a story that clicked. So I would want to start with that. So year 2013 is when I came for the interview in Riverside School, and of course when I joined, and there were a lot of things that was there, and it turned out to be a lot of jargon. There were a lot of jargons there. I couldn't understand anything. They did give me research papers to understand more about the FITS process, the milestone, and everything, and I did all my homework, understanding what it is, and it made sense in the paper, but I was still confused that how will it make sense when I will actually do it in practice. Then in that year, I became the homeroom teacher for grade 7 at that time. And as usual, normal schools, I mean, my role was to take care of the class. I was the class teacher, and I was supposed to teach math and science there. One fine day, and of course it was the terms which was like client project or project based learning, and all of that was not new to me at all, because I had already gone through that in the books at that time. So one of my student, one day, I mean, we were just having a math session, and then she just, out of nowhere, she just asked, sir, as you are a nature freak, so do you know that there is a natural patch which is not a zoo, but it's just an open space of around 4 to 4.5 kilometer diameter, and it's a beautiful space. There are a lot of animals that they have kept there. But there is one thing that is bothering me, and I said, "What was it?" So, Bile, I had just gone to that space, and I could not see footfall. I mean, there were very few people sitting over there, and they just were moving around. So, I mean, that could have been for just that a day, not necessarily. You should also kind of, if you want to kind of come to a conclusion about the footfall, then you will have to observe for a couple of more days or maybe weekends and go and just check whether people are coming on the weekends or not. I insisted this or told her to do that because things that I read about the client project was in the books and I wanted to implement really this time. So I said, okay, suppose she's coming up with a problem statement, then let's see how as a facilitator I can navigate that problem. So she was super excited about it and she said, really, sir, you want me to collect data? And then I said, absolutely, I want you to go and collect the data. The next day, she literally went into that space. She did her survey in terms of asking questions to the owner there, to the watchman who was there, and there were other people who were visiting that space. She also asked a certain question to those people, and she just gathered some of the data. She came to the school. She came to school the next day, and then we all were there waiting. And then she just very first, when we were starting the reconnect of the session, she just raised her hand. She said, "Sir, I want to share something about the space." Oh yeah, please go ahead. So then she came and then she shared that usually, sir, I mean, I had taken some of the data, and the data suggests that weekends mein there are few more people, but not as much as expected, but very less. And then people usually come over there to just relax. It's not that they come over there to kind of, look at the animals or, the space is quite, it's very isolated. The spaces of the animals are also like kind of, covered with a lot of trees and everything. So it's not visible also. So hence, I think that, it's just a picnic spot for people who will just come there, sit and then just go. Okay. Did you ask the owner? Did you ask the watchman? Did you ask different people? And she said, yes, this is the data. And then she shared the data. And all right, then what is the next step? You have figured out that there is a problem there. Now, what is the next step? The next step, sir, can be that, we can as a class, or maybe this is just a single person data as a class of around 4 or 5, we can go and then we can also collect data on different days. And we can see that, what is the footfall in a week and all of that. And she did that. I mean, in that entire week, she did that with her friends and she came up with a stronger data. And in that stronger data, she came up with a beautiful statement. She said that the reason that people are there is very less footfall is because that space is very inside, means it's on the road, but still due to the trees and everything, it's not visible. So then I said, I really don't understand how. So maybe because there is no entry gate there. I mean, everything is inside and it's just naturally left. There is no gate or no any entry stuff which kind of hooks the people to come inside. So I said, that is the problem statement you feel, right? Yeah. When I- So now what is the next step? And then I mean, I was just trying to kind of ask a lot of question to her and she was trying to, just give me all the responses. It was just me asking her questions and she was giving me answer. Can we go and can we talk to the owner there and let's see if, they can, I mean, we'll just tell them that this is the problem. If you can try and come up with an entry gate. So then there is a possibility that the people might come and then, visit this more. So they went and then they pitched it to the owner there, and the owner was very excited. And the owner said, "Okay, okay. Suppose you feel that the entry gate there is no entry gate. How about you make it for us?" And at that time, the excitement was completely different in that in all the students. They said, "So you do believe that we students can make it? Of course, I'm giving it to you. I mean, figure out why first that you chose. Of course, there was some you identified, you observed, you came up with a problem statement, and now that you also know that if this is the solution, then please go ahead and make the solution and see what happens." Now that was the hook to kind of come back to the class and see, okay, if suppose you have gotten a problem statement, if you also have a solution, and if suppose we as a class is going to make the entry gate for them, what does that mean? I mean, how much time will go in that? Days might go in that. Or some professionalism skills are required. Do we have those skills and all of that? And then we did the considering all the factors on the board. And that day, I mean, I realized that, the spirit of I can, because we at Riverside believe that every child can. And that moment, when considering all the factor, they came up with the timeline. They came up with everything that, sir, don't worry about the beacons because we can learn the beacon through this. You can teach us science through this, you can teach us math through this, you can teach all of that was written, and all of that was kind of, we did kind of the brainstorming on what specific content do you think I can teach you through this project? What specific content in math, in this thing, in IT, and everything. We did all of that. And then the project started. and we started working on understanding the say for example, if entry gate is there, so then what is required? First of all, you to understand how high the gate will be. Vehicles usually come there, how high that vehicles are. People, if suppose the people are coming, you have to work on the safety as well. You have to also look at it, has to also look attractive, appealing, and all of that. So measurement was one of the big thing that we learned, and measurements maybe especially through Pythagoras theorem. I taught them the different designs of gate and all of that. All of that was done. They actually made the designs, and initially the designs were made on the paper, and they just went because it was their first project of that batch. They went with the design on the paper, and they just presented the design in front of the owner. The owner said, okay, can you just refine it and digitalize the design and then come up with the quotation as well, because this is just the design. And then we reflected again. We said, see, if he's a client and he is giving us this work, obviously we'll have to tell them that this is the expense of this entire project, and we'll have to give them the quotation and everything. We understood what are quotations, we understood how usually quotations are made, and then what are the resources and everything. If suppose we have to give a quotation, we have to understand the amount of resources that will go in and out. We did everything. They came up with quotations, they came up with the designs, and then we presented, and the client was super impressed. The batch was super impressed. The batch was super motivated, as Jackson said, shared, that in the research it says that through students agency, motivation is the biggest factor. And they're super excited, super motivated. And we started working on the project, and it took us 3 days. And in that 3 days, we were in that space where we were taking our sessions. We were, how old are the students? Yes, the students were 12 to 13 year olds. We were taking the sessions there. We were working on I mean, we distributed the entire students in a manner where some of them were working, some of them were having sessions, then we were swapping and we were doing. So there were studies happening, there was a project that was happening, and then we came up with the gate. And of course, we inaugurated the gate. And after that, we went back in kind of, we invited all the parents there, their friends there. And after a month or a month and a half, we again went back to kind of see whether things have changed. And it did. A lot of footfall after that, that people and the owner witnessed. So that was one of the memory. And then I really believed that, sometimes things appears very commonsensical in the books, but when we do it and when we kind of see the outcome of those things, it's completely different. And 21st century skills, we could see problem solving, we could see critical thinking, we could see creative thinking, all of that in that project, which was not possible in the classroom with the chalk in my hand, with the marker in my hand. Having said that, I'm going to also now going to share one other beautiful project that I did last year with the same age group. One of y'all have asked what is the age group. So the same age group that I had done this, and that was the Nectar Navigator. But this time I'm going to talk more about the feel, imagine, do, share process. I'm going to just pause for a moment and ask y'all that if you could visualize the tool that Akshi and Jackson gave, the feel, imagine, do, share in the story that I shared.
So like maybe one of you can share or
Yes,
like on chat, or you can come off mute and share, which part was feel, which part was do,
was
imagine, and then share.
correct. Anyone? Okay. So that means then I have to give you one more example, which is this, and then we can ask you again. All right. So this is the client project that grade 7 got last year. Uh, the one that I shared, I mean, the client project is categorized. One where the students find the problem by themselves, and there are certain things where, where kind of we also look at opportunities, and then we try and align those opportunities to the grades. This was last year where the batch was learning about ecology, and under ecology they had plant classification where they were also learning about pollinators and different types of pollination. And in that, one of the parent came up, she started this initiative called the Nectar Navigators. Ahmedabad being a very hot temperate region, usually the pollinators doesn't reside into that space. It's only seasonal. They'll come and they'll pollinate, and then after that, the all the pollinators goes away. So this was a very unique concept that she proposed because the students was learning more about pollination and all of that process. Very unique concept which usually is not in India. And she came up with a concept called the insect hotel. Now, what is an insect hotel? This was a Spanish idea initially, where what they do is that they make smaller habitat of insects, and it's like a hotel where we go and we stay there for 1 or 2 days. Similarly, the insects comes and they resides into that smaller habitats. And if suppose things are favorable, then they reside there permanently, and then that helps the ecosystem there. So that was a very unique concept that was proposed to grade 7 last year, and that was our client project. In that, one second, I'll just move this. Okay, sorry, this is a PDF, so I'll have to scroll it down. So the client came in, and first of all, she gave the problem statement and saying that, "Okay, see, I have a Serenity farm or a patch where the idea is to kind of grow different types of plants, trees, and mostly the researchers, the botanical or botanists who will come and who will do research in this space. But we need more of pollinators, and Ahmedabad being quite hot, it's quite difficult because there are very few pollinators, carpenter bees, and some other pollinators which kind of stays there, but not all. So is there by any chance that grade 7, I mean, she proposed this challenge to grade 7 and they can come up with this, and this is the problem statement. Now grade 7 already had an idea of pollinators, and the concept of pollination was clear in them, and they got super excited about this project. They said, yes, of course, we would like to take this project. Again, going back to the first step of if you have gotten a challenge or if you've gotten a project, then how will you move about that project? So considering all the factors, they have to first of all do this thinking routine called considering all the factors. Well, they brainstorm and they put down everything on the board to get a clarity of the project. And in this, they will put down, okay, what are the things that we have to keep in mind. We have to keep in mind quality, we have to keep in mind budget, we have to keep in mind what experts will come in, how are we going to make the design, what concepts we can learn through this, and concepts not only in just one subject, but it's an interdisciplinary approach. So we try and teach all through this one project. So math, may suppose you're going to learn, then what are you going to learn in math? Similarly, what in science, what in all of that, and then we make timelines. And timelines may say, for example, a professional who has given you a client project, then the expectation is that you give back the client project in a specific span of time. It cannot be that she has given you this year and then you're going to finish that in the coming year. So we make this the student run. It's all run by student. We are just the facilitator who kind of just propose and prompt and give them a question in, or nudge them with questions in between, and all of that comes with them. So here, when they had actually made the timeline, they came to this framework and they said that, of course, I mean, we got a problem statement which is feel so, which is that we are going to create this thing. Then what will be the imagine? Because if you have gotten a problem statement, then how will you or what goal you're going to set for yourself? Then you work towards to do to achieve that goal. So they were supposed to set the goal as well. And that goal was, so this was some of the field that we had done, which was here. But the imagine or the best case scenario or the goal that they have set for themselves was this, that grade 7 will create the first insect hotel in Ahmedabad. And this was the one of the very unique concept. So and we got this. And after we made the insect hotel, there were three more insect hotel which was made in Gandhinagar. But this was the first by grade 7, which was very unique. Then comes the do. Now, do is where the student kind of work on the designs. They explore different tools. They will work on their budget. They will They'll do the scrutiny. I mean, different teachers, different experts, different meeting of the minds will happen, and they will come and they will share all the designs there along with their budgets and everything. And once that gets finalized, then comes the time when they go and pitch to the client. Now, client is who will obviously give them feedback if it does not go, well for them. So they meet, they give their, all the design committee and the budget committee goes, they give their designs along with the budgets and everything, and then the designs gets finalized. So these are the designs that was made by students, and this was, I mean, there were more designs made, but these were the designs that was chosen by the client. And the client also gave different ideas that the materials that you're going to use, please keep it sustainable and all of that. So all those factors they had considered. And then comes getting their hand dirty when they started actually making the insect hotel. And this was the main do where they started working. You could see that they're sanding, and then they're working on, making it more natural also, because some of the insect hotels are quite natural. Some of them was made with iron. Once this was done, of course, we do pause, we do ask, and we go back to the timeline and we say, and we kind of reflect that if we have considered everything, if we have looked at all the content, what are the skills and attitude we have built through the project. So then they list down and then they give instances. And also through the checkpoint, which is the monthly test, we also kind of gauge their outcomes. And those outcomes, that if suppose this is the content that you have learned through the project, so then how will a teacher assess that they have understood about this? So we do a monthly test as well in all the beacons. And of course, the skills and attitude comes after reflection. And then, of course, what are the challenges that they faced through the entire this thing? So, like Jackson said about the teamwork. So, in that, some of them, they felt that there was lesser ownership and then preparedness, and then, this work is not done because he was not paying attention, or she was. So, all of these was some of the challenges. But then later, what was the learning? So, of course, this is all the reflection part that comes, and then after that we installed the insect hotel. Some of the insect hotel they wanted to keep it a natural, and some of the insect hotel that the main design was made, which I'll show you 1 second. Um, just give me a minute. Okay, this was the final product of the insect hotel that was made. And here is how the parent body came. So one insect hotel was this, where if you can see that there was smaller habitat of different insects which was made. And then came after the client project was over, we all went back to observing, and even the client said that, "Okay, this will take around a year for us to see whether the habitat that we have made is favorable for the insects, and are they coming and they're residing, because the purpose will not be touched if suppose the insects are not coming. So we'll have to wait for a year." And we did the observation for after, I mean, the interval of every 2 months. And just a couple of months back, I think we got a report that the insects have started coming there, and it's really working well, this insect hotel. And we don't know about, because after this, the Gandhinagar also has 3 insect hotel more, but this was a very success project. So when they shared it, this they also wanted the client to see uh, whether this will work or no, because usually when client project gets over, students looks forward for the outcomes as well, whether whatever they have made, is it making sense, are people using it, or say for if they made it for insects, so are the insects smelling. So once the report came at the end of the year, they were in an awe, and we all celebrated together. Yes, I'll pause here and I'll just kind of now ask questions whether this is making any sense.
Thank you so
I
much.
think there's a question from Savita in the chat as well. Yeah, Amina, please.
Yeah. No, I was also just going to address that. Savita is asking, how do you get these real-time client projects? How do you get the clients even? So what is the process of that? as well. So I think you can start with Savita's question, then Bhavya and John's we can take.
Okay. Very interesting question. Usually we have our parent body, and the profile of the parent body is quite diverse. So in the beginning of the year, when we start our school, at that time we do orientations, the parent orientations, and in that orientation we definitely pitch for asking for client project if suppose parents can offer us client projects. And every year we get it from parents, and plus other social media platform that we have, we also kind of ask client projects from there as well. um Up till now, most of the client project that we
तेरा
have.
कितना बड़ा सिगरेट पीस है आयशा?
Hello.
Oops, I'll fix that.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
up till now, the projects that we have gotten is mostly from our parents. And we just don't ask, like, for example, if Muzammil is taking care of the ICANN in the schools, then Muzammil will not only ask for only grade 7, Muzammil will ask for the entire school. So then we kind of collect the bank in the beginning of the year in the orientation. And then we try and align it with grades. So we do the brainstorming in the beginning of the year, and then we try and align it that which grade will benefit the most from it. Akshi and Jackson has been the part of this process. I know a couple of the client projects. Akshi, I think, is working with grade 4, and Jackson working with grade 5. So we kind of do the brainstorm, and we see that which class fits the best to that client project, and then we kind of propose that to them. How do you convince the students to do the project uh, taken up by the class group, and what is the timeline? How? Okay, very good question. Very good question, Bhavya. Usually convincing, it's like Jackson shared the research, no? There are certain things when it comes to the ownership of the learning. I mean, when we pass the baton to the students itself, no? And we give them that you are the learner, and the ownership of the learning is yours, and you are equally the part of this thing. It's not teacher's responsibility to teach you. You're there. So if you are there in the class, then what is your role as a learner? And then we kind of work out this, and whenever the project is given, we have always seen that the motivation of the learner is too good. And how what is the timeline? We always keep the timeline shorter. The reason, because if you stretch it more, the energy of the students might fade away. So hence it has to be couple of week to 3 weeks. For lower grades 3 4, it might extend to 4 or 5 weeks as well, but usually it is around 2 to 3 weeks for higher grades. Just give me a second. In this, I did not put on the light. Give me a minute. I'll just
Yeah,
put on the light and I'll come back. Mm.
thank you so much for that. Hmm. All right.
Uh,
I will bring up a question that John had, which was what is the evaluation criteria for such a project? And yeah, if you
okay.
can address that. Yeah.
In the beginning, again, whenever we do a client project, there's a planning format we follow, which is called Teach for Understanding, which is TFU. And that TFU is kind of sitting as teacher team, and then we plan that entire project for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And in that, we specifically work on what content will be taught. And then at various touch points, wherever, say, for example, we have to pause, and then where we are going to assess, if suppose you have taught this content in math, suppose you have taught them surface area and volume, because in the insect hotel, a lot of entire unit of surface area and volume was taught to them. So then we kind of give a pause point. We create an evidence. We create a checkpoint or an evidence. A checkpoint is usually the monthly test, and evidences is the ongoing assessment that we do. So we do create all of that, and then we assess them. One is the writing piece, which is an assessment. The other assessment is more through scrutinies that happen, and in that scrutinies also we give them specific rubrics, and that specific rubrics is then also given to the expert, and then the experts ask a question on that lines, and they also kind of assess it. The second is this. The third also happens through when the client kind of ask them questions, and the scrutiny happens with the client as well. So there are various ways we do the scrutiny. There are various way we assess our child through this process. But yes, the outcomes is what we believe that if it is not outcome driven, then it does not have any value. So outcomes is what we really look forward to in the client project.
Thank you, Muzammil, for that. And I remember reading something, was it from the book or some conversation about uh, there were a few children who were tasked with coming up with a new flavor of an ice cream
Yes,
during the summer at some school. Sorry
yes,
if you touched upon that and if I'm duplicating, but that's just such an amazing example that sticks
yes.
with me. They created a new flavor for
And
what
have
I
more.
for
Yes, have more. Razzmatazz. So
for have
Razzmatazz was created by Riverside students, and that was one of the menu in the Have More everywhere now you go.
okay.
Similarly, last year we also worked with the Leela, and Leela ke andar we came up with one of the menu recipe, and students of grade 4 last year has worked with the Leela. We got that project, and we thought that because there were a lot of students who were foodie in that class, and I have a lot of their parents are also working with quite many restaurants with them, and they all came up with that we want to take this, designing a menu for the Leela, and they made that menu, and which was, I mean, it was unbelievable to see a grade 4, which is just a 9 year or a 10-year old kind of creating a menu for the Leela. But it was a fabulous project.
That's fab.
Yeah.
I actually want to bring up a question by Sumaya, who's asking,
Yeah.
apart from the client project, what are some other opportunities for children at Riverside to exercise student agency, or if there are others like similar spaces? And
Hmm.
I just want to also add Bhavna's question to my question, which is what are other opportunities and what are situations where something like this doesn't work, right? Maybe it's a project or an activity that you've put into place. I'm sure there were lots of hits and misses during the client
Yeah, yeah.
project as well. So, what is the
Yes.
approach there? So, those two questions. Yeah.
Okay, first I'll address the question in terms of if these projects, because some of them are projects. So what we have done, the ICANN program at Riverside has three big wins. One is the core competency, which are the academics. The other is the service, and the third piece is the ICANN piece, which is the ICANN challenges that we do. And the ICANN challenges is divided into three levels: level one, level two, and level three. And ICANN is the piece which builds student agency. Level one challenges are thinking routines. Now, thinking routines can be, you can take a TPE, you can take TPE is Think, Puzzle, Explore, you can take See, Think, Wonder. All these great thinking routines are there already available. And those ICANN level ones, no, I mean, you as a facilitator don't have to do anything. I mean, I remember just I found a skull in Mount Abu, and I came back with that skull, and the canines of those skull was kind of broken. I just kept that skull on the table, and I said, see, think, and wonder. They just saw that, they started observing, and then after that, they started going deeper into it. Oh, because we think that this is broken, it's carnivore because the canines are there, so it's carnivore. It might be broken because they are gone for a hunting. All the thinking that started happening, and then wonder is when they just come up with whatever questions they have, and then we have a conversation together. So it's a completely engaged style of teaching learning that happens, and these fall under level one, which is a session long or maybe a day long. Then comes level two, which is a pure academic challenge. Now, academic challenge, I remember doing a Jugaad challenge where I'll just take a concept and then I'll just, a Jugaad challenge. So before that, I had done a mimicry challenge. I mean, I just kind of showed them an image, and that image was very simple image. It was a popsicle. It was a go-kart made with a popsicle stick, and I said that just go and make it. And student said, "Sir, what's the big deal in making this?" Please go and make it. And when actually they started making that go-kart, they understood, oh, it's not working. Why is it not working? And then they, went deeper into understanding of the physics and, the sciences behind why it's not working. So they understood the laws of motion and everything. And once the model was made, before that, the interval from pitching the challenge to the actual final model, that whole process, it was just kind of, that it's not easy to bring the idea from the brain to hand. It's a process and it's a journey. And that usually happens. And in academic level too, mein, it's only that, which concepts have you learned, whether it's pure physics, whether it's pure math or this thing, and then a jury comes and then the jury assesses with the rubric that's given.
Yeah.
And the third is the level 3, which is the client project, which I shared right now. So these are the 3 levels that we do through the year. And in our timetables, we already divide our timetables into 3, which is again service, core competency, and I can. Every single day, we have an hour and 15 minutes, which is given for I can. And in that hour, sometimes, of course, it might take over here and there. I mean, sometimes I have to merge service and I can together. Sometimes I have to, merge core and I can together. So it plays like balance. It's never that, we have kind of given more weightage to this or more weightage to that, but it just goes hand in hand. But yeah, this is how we kind of, apart from just client projects, we also look at other challenges and thinking routines, which incorporates student agency. Can you repeat the other question one more time if possible?
Yes. What are some challenges that you faced when
Okay.
it comes to like, I think that's there, and I believe Zara, you have a question. That'll be the last question to Muzzammil because he has to drop off very quickly. Zara, do you just want to surface your question?
I wanted to say thank you. I think that I've been hearing about the Riverside School ever since coming into contact with the circle. It was so great to hear about how this works. So my
Thank you so much.
question is, and I'm also sorry for unmuting accidentally earlier. I was walking with my children and there were a lot of cigarette butts on the street. So I was just telling them that we should not touch it.
Okay.
But my question is that I heard this word being used, facilitator. And I think this idea of a teacher who is a facilitator is at the core of a lot of this inquiry-based learning at the Riverside School. So I think my question is that how do you get there? Does the Riverside School hire facilitators or do they train people to be that? And if you could kind of speak to that process a little bit.
Sure. See, I mean, in this also, there are two things that, I mean, one is clearly what makes sense to us as human being. I mean, when you enter to the world of education, initially, when you will enter into the class, one will be, of course, the pedagogy that the school follows, through which you will have the training and everything. But the other thing is that what is your instinct? I mean, what makes sense to you also matters a lot because I remember 4 years back when my dad got a stroke, brain stroke, and I came to the class and I was sitting, and 4 days I was not there on the campus, so the students were worried, and students just asked us, "Sir, what happened?" And I said, "See, boss," and I was just kind of worried, and my dad got a stroke. So, will you, sir, what is a stroke? And the curiosity of students, no, because when you come as a storyteller, when you come as a nature lover, and you just want to come and share things with your students, so students also look forward to you. It's just a stroke is like, when my dad just got a puncture in the brain, and then brain being brain, there is no outlet there. So there was a surgery that happened where there were burr holes that was done, and then the pressure was evacuated. Sir, we didn't understand anything. Can you please explain, elaborate? So, what do you want to learn? Tell me. So, we want to understand what is this burr hole and how do you get a stroke and all of that. Okay. So then that was an opportunity I took, that in my year at a glance, the nervous system was supposed to be taught in the month of, say, February. But I took this opportunity. The students were curious. The entire class was curious. So I just kind of flipped that. I brought that nervous system into this month. And through storytelling, through his reports and everything, I did that entire unit of nervous system. And they just did not learn about the parts and the function of the brain, but they got connected with this so much because I was involved, my dad was involved, so they were involved. And I said, "Okay, I'm not a doctor, I don't know much about it. What is your role as a learner? Tell me." They said, "Sir, I mean, first of all, and on plus, I also then said that, see, one, I'll ask you your role, but then do you know that there is a specific content that I have to cover as a teacher also?" I just wrote that content on the side and I said, "What do you want to know about the brain now? Tell me." What if the brain was not in the skull? What if the brain was in the knee? What if the placement of the brain was in the heart and the heart was here? All those questions came on the board. We boiled it down those questions to around 6 or 7 essential questions. And I said, okay, if you are a learner, tell me which questions you want to address. So then there were students who came up, oh, sir, we would like to take this. Okay, now what does it mean to take a session? Oh, sir, it means that we have to plan. It means that we have to go back to to the expert to kind of refine the plan. It means that we have to do the dry run. It means that once before the executing, we again have to go back and then ask whether this, they conducted the sessions and they took everything, and I was a facilitator in terms of helping them plan, helping them execute things, and I just kind of navigated them through the journey. And finally, when they ended up, the nervous system, no, the outcome that usually when I teach them in the class versus when they took the ownership of the learning and they gave the checkpoint, no, it was 7% ka hike in their checkpoint, because they took the ownership of the learning.
Thank you so
Amina,
much.
can I just ask a really fast follow-up question, or are we out of time?
Muzzammil, you tell us.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, no,
I would
it's
have
okay.
loved to
But
continue,
thank you.
but I have another call. So
Yes. Sarah, you can still float it and the fellows maybe can address it because they're there. Thank you so much for joining us.
thank you so much. And it was a
And
pleasure
sharing.
talking to all of you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Muzzammil.
Yeah, we have the fellows are going to hang back for about 10 minutes. If you have any questions, Riverside related, or anything that was shared,
So,
feel free
yeah.
to. Yeah, go ahead.
So, thank you so much, all of you. Now, definitely, that's a lot of information in one session to process. Naturally so, because the wonders that Riverside is creating, and of which one such amazing educator that we had a chance to, mingle with right now. Before we close it out, we wanted to just share with you the resources and references that we have referred to. One is OCED report, and the other is FIDS toolkit, which both of which we will be sharing with you on the chat as well. If you have any questions which are not addressed right now, post we close out, please take a screenshot of this. You can mail either one of us. Please feel free to reach out. Yeah, so I'll keep this on the screen for the next 2 seconds. You can quickly take a screenshot. Post that, we can maybe take 2-3 questions, Amina. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
perfect. And then we can close out.
Yeah, Sarah, do you just want to put your question ahead while others just take a screenshot? And while Zara is just asking a question, there's a poll that will come up on your screen, just a quick feedback about the session. Please respond to it. It'll take about 5 seconds. Yeah, Zara, over to you.
Hi, Amina, can you hear me? I was
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
answering the poll, so then I couldn't unmute
Okay.
myself.
Oh, so sorry.
Um,
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just asking that. I think that my question was a little bit more on like the HR point of it. In the context of like to have, if you have a single teacher who is like, you hear these kind of ad hoc stories about teachers who are doing this inquiry-based learning, but the fact that like this school like holistically has developed a system where I'm assuming that all of these teachers are really focusing on inquiry-based learning. So I guess what my question is that we've like talked about various things like LEAP and like different educational models, and I guess what Teach for India is doing in the circle, but like this project-based, like inquiry-based learning, is there like, where is it taught, or like how do you qualify? How do you, as a person, like how do you get qualified to teach something in that way? And do people all come from a BEd background, or are they just like people who are curious, who like want to, I mean, it's a very, in one sense, like a very natural way of learning, but in another way, it's like super unnatural because like everything that we're trained, like teachers are trained to do is like not to do it this way. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a complicated question, but I guess my question is like, where do these teachers come from? And like, how is that continued, that kind of philosophy?
Akshi, do you want to take it up, or should I go
Yeah,
forward with this?
I'll say part of what my understanding is, and then you can add on. So the idea is not all teachers at Riverside are BEd or are educators. I think what they really look for in a teacher is the mindset that the teacher is coming from. Whether you're coming from mindset of wanting to build character, wanting to engage with the students, and what your understanding of education is. And often there are a lot of, say, professional development sessions that happen. There's a lot of training that happens on the job. There's a lot of mentorship, a lot of coaching with terms of what inquiry based learning looks like. There's a lot of processes that they have in place to build these kind of learning systems. So it's not about being an inquiry based teacher. It's about really about a lot about learning on the job as well. Yeah, Jackson, you want to add anything?
Yeah, and also the fact that Muzzammil, as he had mentioned, he has been in Riverside for quite some time now, like 15, 12, 15 years. So that also means that he has a growing understanding of what exactly inclusive education, or being a facilitator as against being an educator would be. So naturally, when the new teachers join, which most of them aren't really BEd, but when the new teachers join, there are a lot of observations that happen. There's a lot of debrief that happens. So one is that the strength of staying back to the purpose, right? This is my way of joining my school, and this is why I want to do this. Now, how do I do this? That is where your mentor in the school comes in with the experience they've had, and there is a constant support that is given to the teachers. So there is no such textbook that is prescribed per se, but I feel it's a lot of practice and a lot of years that each and everyone has put in.
Thank you so much for that question, Zara, and for you both to address it. I just want to ensure. I know there was one question by John that went unaddressed. Actually, I want to bring it to you since you're working on client projects right now. You're supporting. Are there instances or something that doesn't work out when you're creating that project, presenting it to the client, and how is that actually addressed?
I think that actually recently happened in grade 4, and I think Jackson can also add the grade 5 perspective, right? So the students are currently working on building a kitchen garden for a client, and this is really aligning very beautifully with their science, where they're learning about ecosystems and food chain. So what actually happened a couple of weeks, actually a week or two ago, is that they had prepared the list of plants. They'd prepared a full design of what the garden would look like. They'd gone and measured the space. They prepared on graph paper where the beds would be and everything. And then the client came in and he had a completely different perspective. He said that, hey, this is too big of a space. I want to make it shorter. I want to leave the space empty. So they had to completely rethink their design. They had come up with a list of some 20 plants, and one of the plants was avocado that they wanted to, the client wanted to grow. But then they realized, okay, avocado takes like 2 to 5 years to like give fruit. So that is not something that's very feasible, right? In especially, climate like our country, right? So based on all of this, they had to completely redesign the plants that they were using, completely redesign the space and how the plant placement would be. And now actually what happened today is that the client came in again and they again sort of presented their reworked ideas. And now they've gotten a final list of feedback that they're going to work on again. So it's very much a learning as you go along, tweaking things, working on feedback. There's also a lot of challenges in terms of, say, I think there was a question about how you get all students to be involved. That is a very conscious effort on the part of the teachers. It's a lot about, so if there's a project, there are several groups that work. So in the, say, the kitchen garden project, there's a plants group, there's a measurement group, there's a presentation group, there is a budget group, right? So students also have the choice to pick which group they want to be part of. So at the very beginning, when they have the feel and they understand, okay, this is what we're working towards, they have a choice to pick their group. And then once they've chosen that, there's a lot more motivation that comes in to be able to be an active part of that group. So yeah, this is essentially how it looks like.
Thanks for that. Any other questions? Anyone wants to come off of mute? We are heading to a close. Farid, go ahead.
Yeah, the two stories which shared by Muzzammil, one is about the zoo wala thing, and the other about the nectar wala thing. I'm just curious to know that in the first story, the problem was identified by the student, and then eventually like they came up with solution, and that's how it was converted into a client project. Wherein in the nectar wala thing, the problem statement was from the client and not by the student. So in that nectar wala presentation, in the ups and down wala slide, there was a statement saying that they had faced the challenge of lesser ownership, right? So is it? I'm just wondering, like, if the problem is identified by the child, and then convert that into that designing frame where you talk about field, that works perfectly well, or where the project is coming from the client, and then as a part of school process, the project has been taken up by the student. So, I mean, I'm just wondering, okay, what is more impactful?
So it actually works two ways for it when it comes to the client project. So one is that the client walks in and they pitch their project. And B is that the school itself becomes a client. So for example, if I have to talk about grade 5, the client for grade 5's client project is the admin of the school. Right. And the ask there is to create an interactive wall for early years students. That is all the way from pre-K till grade 2. So that is one that either which ways works, right? It's ultimately a client project. So it either comes from the students or it comes or the client pitches the project to the school. So either which ways, the objective does not really diminish because the challenge, the hook part, as Muzzammil also said, plays a very important role. So when the client comes to the project, they don't just walk into the class. First, a hook is created, and that is where the teachers spend a lot of hours brainstorming that how do we actually hook our students to this particular project and leave that lasting impact and that curiosity of what exactly can a success statement in that look like. So it does not really lose the pulse of it, is what I feel.
Awesome. If there are no more questions, I think we can close. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Thank you to Akshi and Jackson for designing this and delivering it in such a concise manner. Really appreciate all the effort that's put into it. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We will see you at another forum. Bye bye. Have a good evening.
Thank you all, everyone. Good evening.